that we're here. I guess we'll find out though once people show up or not. I believe that we are. I believe Dill's here. I hope that everything is all good here. I'm gonna go to the FL Studio, screen here. Hope everybody's been doing good. I'm on the other page now, and it doesn't quite say that people are in. But I guess we are. I'm assuming we're live. It says live for me, so I'm just gonna start. How's it going, everybody? Hope everybody's been doing good. It's been a while since I have live streamed. Been a long while, so I'm pretty excited for this. I've been wanting to for quite a few months actually. I know it's been almost a year. The last time I live streamed was when Who Tends a Garden came out, and we did a stream. Leonard's here. Dill's here. Everybody's here. Yeah. Cool. So today we're going to go through some tracks. We're going to go through some project files of songs that aren't out yet, songs that are out, and we'll just figure it out. If I'm getting a warning here on my OBS saying that the bitrate, it might be a little low. So if anybody's got some issues, let me know and I'll lower the bitrate on my end. But here we go. I guess I should probably also let people know that we're live. But people will come in, I'm sure. Perfect. Dill, how's it going, man? It's been a while since we've spoken. For those who don't know Dill, he came out with like the album of the year last year or 2 years ago, something like that. Maybe after we show my tracks, we'll do a listening party of Dill's last album. I know he's got some music coming too, so people should check him out. But yeah, I'm just trying to waste time at this point, trying to get everything, set up and stuff. Hopefully people start coming in here. If not, it's all good because this will be available after the stream as well for folks who aren't able to make it at this time. But okay, let's just go over this first. This track here that's open is a track called Intersect. And it was one of the first tracks that I had actually made. Let's see if this is just the mixing file, but let's see. I started it on February 23rd. And it says here that I worked on it for 4 hours, but I think it was more than that. So it was one of the first tracks that I had made for the album. And kind of set off the stage for me wanting to make the whole album. So let's take a listen. This is just the mixed version. The mastered version was mastered by Chad Skinner at Half Moon Audio, as usual. And it turned out really good, but today you're going to be hearing the just mixed version. Tomorrow you'll be able to hear the final version on Spotify and Amazon, Apple, all that stuff. But actually, those of you listening too, you might have already heard it. To be honest, I've been sending out the vinyls for the past 3-ish months, so a lot of you have already heard the full album. But anyways, let's get on with it. So, might be a little low as well, but I'll speak when I need to. Maybe I'll be pausing partway through just because I want to explain something already. Oh, there's a glitch already, but it should get smoother as we go. sipping water, Leonard. Hey, David. I'm glad you can make it. Hope you're enjoying the drone that you're hearing. It's not all that exciting, but I like the textures. So first off, everybody coming into here, thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. I am going to be speaking at some point. We were just listening to the first track. Glad to see you here, Ben, Neon Pajamas, author of the year. Paper Ocean as well. Glad to see familiar faces. David, me being in your 0.1% of, listens on Spotify is nuts. So thank you. So what you just heard is a track called Intersect. It's the first track of the record, and if you can't tell, the sound of it is why I wanted it to be the first track on the record. It's very thin. There's really no bass at all. It's slow moving, but at the same time, only 3 minutes 21. To me, it feels like longer than that in a good way. I want to go through it because yesterday I was listening to this track for the first time in a while, and I was kind of confused as to why this pad opens it and goes throughout the whole thing. So like this one here, the noise on it is super phasey. It's not a clean noise that I typically like. And even that cutout there, you just heard it right there. It's very strange. It's a weird sounding pad. But as everything comes into the track, it sort of blends in together. So I think if I got to redo the track, I would actually end up having this come in later on. But that's besides the point. So I'll bring down my mixer here. So on this track, the one that you're hearing, all that's on it is a bunch of EQs, really. It got some guitar rig on it with a little reflector, the reverb in guitar rig. It's my favorite one. Paper Ocean, please talk about the pedals you used this time. I think for the last album you heavily used Shallow Water, right? Yeah, I did. And actually this sounds a lot like Shallow Water if it was put onto a pad because of the phasey noise. But it wasn't. What I used was Taylor Dupree's plugin called, I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. And then it was re-recorded onto this track. That's why it's not in the thing here. But it's called Small Winters. And for those of you who don't know Small Winters, it's kind of like a weird granular effect. And I found that the band EQ in this was really, really nice. Just when you toggled it on and off, you didn't really have to do anything. So that's what this is. And a lot of this album is made with Small Winters. Really good stuff. Admittedly, I don't know how to really use it. But when you tinker around enough, most of the time something comes up and you end up, being happy with it. Pure Magnetic came out with it. And it's a good one. I really wanted to talk about this pad, though, just because it surprised me yesterday when I was listening back. I was very confused as to why it was so phasey and stuff. In the mastering, I asked Chad to bring it down. Let's go on to this pad. It doesn't sound great off the bat, but, once again, when tied in with everything else, it sounds really nice. It's very dissonant. That's why I liked it. It's very thin. Let's see what it was. It was a contact patch. The sub-organ. Yeah, I use this all the time. So it's essentially a dirty sine wave. That's all it really is, with a little bit of a attack brought up there. And the inbuilt reverb, which I don't use all that often, to be honest. So that's cool. Very simple. On the actual track, I've just got more reverb, vintage verb, and a little reflector. You're going to be seeing these a lot in this live stream. That's pretty much it. So another thing that really interested me about this song, and a reason that it was one of my favorites on the record, is the use of guitar. So this is heavily Small Winters as well. So what I did was I would just record randomly into Small Winters, and what it does is sort of picks and chooses its own phrases, and then it leaves the dirt and grit in it. It's really, really cool. This one in particular, all it is on it is Small Winters and then into a very simple EQ. But it's a strange one, right? I think it's a strange one. And you can see it right here. This line here is this. And I just sort of cut it up every once in a while. And then paired with this guitar, which is very minimal again. Almost nothing. Again, with the dirt and stuff, I don't exactly know where that dirt's coming from. Probably from Small Winters, but. And making sure that noise is even like that. I'm sure you just heard that. That's cool. I don't know how anything made that noise, but it's right here. Really cool, in my opinion. And then, so this is a piano. I'm sure it was recorded through my organelle, and then just used as a sampler. That's what it sounds like, at least from the noise. On this channel is actually nothing, if you can believe that. I just sort of plopped it in and it worked, which is really cool. But and then we've got another synth. That's this. So often what I do, if you can see here, this is right here. I like sort of pitch and stuff, and then, put it on top of each other. Adding the dirt and noise here, and then putting RXD noise on the guitar is funny. Yeah, I think I was trying to isolate the noise to mess around with it more, but it didn't end up working. Because I really like the sound of it, I almost wanted to sample it myself and put it in other tracks. But yeah. And then obviously everything together, a full track, if you can see here, this is something that I do a lot with the synths, with the drones. I'll have my regular drone here, right? And then what I do is just literally put it up an octave. And that's where sort of the fullness comes from, which you can actually see in here as well, which is another reason why I use 2 EQs. One EQ is technically only EQing the first one, and the next one is kind of taking care of the higher pitch one. Not completely, because you can't really route like that in FL unless you do it convoluted, but pretty much it's the same idea. You get the gist of it. And then also got a Pro Q, I guess, to get rid of this harmonic for some reason. I'm sure a lot of ambient artists in here, like Paper Ocean. If you're anything like me, half the time you're just chasing harmonics. So maybe we take a listen to this one more time before we move on to track 2. I don't know if I'm going to be going through every track this time, but we'll see. I have a handful in mind that I definitely want to go through. But yeah, let's listen to it again. I'll shut my mic off and you can listen to it. Yeah. I especially like the end of that, just with those really, really, really simple guitar notes. Sometimes that's all it is. Paper Ocean in the chat said you can create full and rich sounding tune just by recording 2 tracks and recycling and rearranging them. Literally, this is what I do now. Like through my other project, Lutz Jennings, I use the organelle record, some lo-fi drone textures and just mess around, and that's what ends up working so well. Most of those tracks end up being 4 tracks long or something like this, and it's something to keep in mind too for people who are writing music. My tracks used to be, my projects used to be hundreds of tracks, and it would be so convoluted. But what you'll notice going through all these um, is that they're like 10. Most of this is just automation. There's only actually like 10 sounds going on in the whole thing, and I think that's really important. All right, let's open up the title track, which is one of my favorites, as it's loading in. I would like to chat about the naming of the tracks on this one. They're kind of interesting because I was in two minds when I was naming the whole thing. On one hand, I was getting really into sort of mathematical, theory books on physics, all this stuff. I was also using Blender a lot, so that's like where the name intersect came from. It's literally an intersect between two axes or whatever. And I just really liked it. And I was going to name the whole track or the whole album after these types of terms and whatnot, but decided against it once I came up with the name Something Ephemeral. And yeah, Something Ephemeral came from a book somewhere. I can't remember exactly what it was. I have it in my notes. Typically what happens when I find track titles is I'll have one thing, and then I just sort of over the months or weeks or even years sometimes, I will change just a word or two. So I don't think Something Ephemeral started as Something Ephemeral. It started as I have in my notes here ephemeral, like flowers, but I also have where's Everything Ephemeral, which I also really liked, but eventually decided Something Ephemeral was cooler. It's more abstract. It's less on the nose, in my opinion. Let me catch up on chat here. Spencer, lovely stuff. Just spent the whole day yesterday listening to all the singles. Also, Who Tends a Garden was loving it. Thank you for joining as well. Thank you for listening to this live stream. And same with Professor AB. Love your songs, brother. I really appreciate that. Leonard, I will not come to Brazil. Not right now. I would love to. But I also know that you are not in Brazil. Paper Ocean. What are your favorite scripts for the organelle? I thought about getting one because the OP1 field is too expensive. Yes, this is the thing. I had an OP1, not the field, but I had the original OP1, and I got the organelle and the OP1 around the same time, and I ended up selling my OP1 because I never used it. Honestly, there's a ton of really, really amazing scripts and stuff on the organelle. But really, I just use it as a sampler. There's one in particular called Nori Sampler, and it's really easy to use, and that's all I use it for. I know you can get into the weeds with ORAC and stuff like this, and I have in the past, but it's just not what I do on a daily basis. My general ritual is to use it as a sampler. Go down to the piano, record some stuff into it, and then just go to town. Or the guitar, or even other synths out of the speakers, which is another way to get texture that I've been liking lately. And yeah. So this track here is called Something Ephemeral. It's the title track. I was using Labs and Mangle on this, and then just recording in a bunch of stuff: acoustic guitar, piano. You'll hear it in a minute. And once again, like I said with the other one, it's like what? In total, this is 10 tracks, 10 sounds. My absolute favorite track on the album, which is another reason that it's the title track. But let's listen to it and see what everybody likes, and then we'll go through it sound by sound. I'll turn off my mic and play it, but it's funny. I've noticed every time I mute my mic and we listen to songs, the concurrent viewers kind of spikes up. So I'm expecting that to happen again. Anybody who's new here, I do speak throughout the whole thing, but I won't be speaking for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Yeah. Once again, this one's one of my favorites. One of my favorites because it's so simple. I think like it's really just that one melody, and I don't know if you guys started to notice, but on Who Tends a Garden, I got really, really into super loose syncopation in a sense. I guess that might be the wrong word, but where two melodies sort of line up and then diverge from each other and come back. Before I get more into this track, because I do want to show you how it started, let's answer some of these questions. Paper Ocean, this whole time I'm like, I know your name, I know you, and I can't, I think it's the nerves, I can't think of your name. If you want to just remind me so I don't have to keep calling you Paper Ocean. For those listening, Paper Ocean is also a really great ambient artist. He also came out with a couple lo-fi collab albums that did really, really well. Really worth checking them out. But do you record all the tracks first and then start panning while arranging, or do you already have in mind where you want to put the track when you record it? Honestly, generally, I leave things pretty centered. Panning something that happens afterwards for me, unless I'm recording. So like, if you see these layers are all essentially the same thing. It's all acoustic guitar. And I know that I'll have, this one right here will be the left, center, right. So that's literally reflected right here. And then these two sort of extra room type tracks are slightly panned, which makes it really wide and really nice. But the main sounds of this are all centered, really simple. I tend to try to get the panning in the recording as well when I can do stereo recording, but that's a whole other thing. The piano sounds really great. Honestly, that's once again with the organelle mic, the tiny little mic right there. I urge anybody making music, use crappy mics. It makes everything a lot more interesting. I say that as I talk into an AKG 414, but still, the it's still the, yeah. Anyways, first time on your live stream. I absolutely love your music. I really appreciate that. That's what the new username is. I really appreciate you sort of joining and listening along. Spencer, I love seeing the dates on the tracks from April 2023. Yeah, that's true. Actually, let's look at this one. I looked at the other track. Yeah, April 18th, 2023. That was a long time ago. That's surprising, to be honest. I don't remember it being that long ago, but it says here I worked on it for 20 hours. Seems a little bit excessive. I don't know if it was actually 20 hours, but yeah. Um, been putting out an album hopefully later this year. That was mostly recorded in like 2020. I mean, it happens to all of us, you know. The older music, especially the stuff around, you know, lockdown and all that, is finally starting to come out. As for me, I was making so much music at the time. There was no way for it to come out at that time, you know. And then also working with the label, there's a lot of benefits to releasing music slowly but consistently, in terms of algorithmic, you know, streaming and all that stuff. So that was another. It was intentionally left, but honestly, this whole album's been done close to 8 months now, and just sort of been waiting to put it out, which can be frustrating, but at the same time, you know, it's worth it. Ben, drinking coffee while listening to the song will make your coffee decaf. So chill. Yeah, that's true. Like I said, the simplicity of this song is really what gets me with it. I'm trying to write more like this in the future. You know, even just solo piano songs, just make sure I have space in between melodies. You know, it works out and it's really nice. As someone who has no idea about music, I never knew these squiggly lines sound so good. Yeah, that's true. I mean, even with this, you know, when you zoom in, it's literally just waveforms. That's one of the great things, you know. Desolate Horizons, how's it going, man? Thanks for catching the stream. For those who don't know, he makes really, really great drone music as well. Also a label mate of mine on Network. Glad that you could make it into this. And Eric, my favorite ambient artist, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you watching. And I hope that you like the music that you hear today. So let's go through this. I don't know if I made these in order. Like, I don't know if this was the first thing recorded, that the second thing. I think eventually I rearranged to mix it properly. But let's see. I'll just find these. So this is the original acoustic guitar that I made. It must be because it's insert 1. I don't go back for that. So, you know, super, super simple. You know? Literally just let the room noise come in. You know, just breathe through it sometimes, especially for ambient music, is really, really good. And I was really happy that I left these noises in, me like sort of setting up the guitar, you know? It's really nice. It almost sounds like a breath in the mix. I'm going to be doing that. And it happens again there. I'm going to be doing that more in the future as well, because that was a nice surprise when that came through. I'll just sort of let this keep going while I answer these, because I have a very professional sidechain on the music. In case you haven't noticed, when I talk, the music goes down. It's very, very cool. Dill, appreciate the advice about cheap mics and stereo recording. Do you have any advice you've received about recording, mixing, etc.? That has really stuck with you and became common throughout? Yeah, honestly, there really is. I got a lot of advice on stereo separation early on and how to make tracks sound wider than they are. And it's very simple things. Like in FL Studio, you can make this one sound super wide just by, you know, this knob. But also with messing around with reverbs and EQing those reverbs in specific ways, really livens the track, and it makes it so that it almost sounds like you're in the room with the instrument or with the player. And that's something that's always stuck with me. I can't give any like practical advice off the top of my head, but I'll show you even with this one. So this was recorded on my AKG, and then later, you know, just low passed. But the guitar rig on here, since it's an acoustic guitar, I went through my virtual amp, which is guitar rig that I always use, And if you can tell, I have like amps and cabinets and all this stuff on here. I'm sure it was a preset in Basic Jazz at first, but I did mess around with some things. You know, there's a very slow echo on here, very semi-dry reverb on here as well. You know, yeah. I think that's it. Like focusing on stereo separation, and not only that, but track separation within a mix. You know what I'm saying? Dill, I don't feel like you need this because you're a pretty good producer, even though I know that you get your stuff mixed externally. But like, let's just say you have a sub bass in here, or I'll show you after with the drone. If there's a lot of stuff coming in this 100, 200 zone, even up to 300 and 400, the mud gets too much. So just bringing that down and allowing other sounds to come through instead, it adds a lot to the mix. You know, I don't know if any of that is coherent or makes any sense. I'm sort of speaking out of my ass, but you know, yeah. Professor AB, how did you start making this type of music? How did you learn to make these? Like 12 years ago, I started making like electronic dance music, like drum and bass, dubstep. And over the years, I just started liking more and more modern classical ambient music. And slowly took the drums out. And, you know, one thing leads to another over, it's like an evolution, I guess. Over 10 years, you know, things can really turn into other things. Something just happened there and that I want to point out as well. Don't be afraid to cut off the sound like that, because it almost sounds real. A real player doesn't always let the sustain of the instrument. You know what I mean? Sometimes in a mix, it makes it sound more real to just chop something instead of fading it out. And that's something I've learned recently, you know, over the last couple of years with this record and Who Tends a Garden. Is it's things like those that add to a track. Like if everything's a perfect fade out and stuff, it just doesn't sound real. And a lot of people want real. And that's the reason that I've also been letting noise in and leaving it. All right. Let's go, before I answer your question, Leonard, let's go to the drones here. I don't remember exactly what the drones are made of, but it seems like it might be Labs. Just the soft piano on Labs? Hold up. I might have just blown my mind. Let's listen to this pattern. Nothing's coming through. Oh, it's because it's muted. Okay. So this is something that I often do. I'll just, in key, put random notes, especially high up. And then if you record these into Edison, or whatever recording thing is on your DAW, and then throw it into Mangle or another granular synth. That is what this drone is made of. This, what you're hearing right now, made that, if you can believe it. So you'll also see another VST that I was using a lot, delay. This is a free delay. It's awesome, let me tell you. Let's actually hear it with this. I'm curious, because it's muted in the mix right now. Oh, it's almost just like a backwards reverb. I was assuming it was going to be more ambient, you know. But it's really about just messing around with stuff, is what I'm trying to get at. This is a really great plugin, honestly. Like, I would recommend to everybody. My whole Loose Jennings album, Music for Empty Rooms, was made with this. And the ducking feature, it's really, really cool. Because you can make things sidechain. Sorry, not things. One sound can sidechain itself in certain frequencies. And it's a really, really crazy, it's wild. On another live stream, I'll go through that album because it's really cool. I think the production on it's really cool. Anyways, let's get rid of that. Okay, we're looking at the drone. So, yeah, it's just a drone with a little bit of EQ, low pass, and then finding some of those harmonics and getting rid of them. Yeah, Spencer, love delay. I often just hit randomize a bunch of times and see where I end up. Literally, yeah, that's the beauty of it. It's really great. Dill, if there's anyone out there to answer this, I think it's you. Compositionally, how do you make your pads stand out? I've heard varying philosophies about this, but your pads feel rich and use satisfying extensions. Honestly, I think it's all about the EQ, and honestly, I think it's the way that I make the drones and pads as well, using granular synths like Mangle, which should be in here. Let's actually listen to this. It might not actually be good because I might not have enough CPU power right now. Anyways, I use something called the Mangle. I'm really scared to update my setup because I'm not gonna. This is the software developer who makes the Mangle doesn't make it anymore. He doesn't do it. So whenever I get a new setup, I'm gonna have to say goodbye to Mangle, which is very sad. But I think it's honestly because of that, it doesn't make the drones and pads consistent. If you can hear in this, like there's random little noises coming through, and it's because it was pitched up and pitched down, and every once in a while they would come through. It's not all the time. Like even, it almost sounds like not quite a different pad, but definitely different notes. You know? Oh, I can actually hear some acoustic guitar in there. So I think this pad was piano, that piano I showed you, and acoustic guitar going through Mangle, then with reverb and all that stuff. Because on track 5, you can see that it's guitar rig, which is going to be the reverb. And this is sort of the way that I EQ'd this pad originally. But then there's also this. So something I started doing on this album is using underlying pads that don't sound great, but in the mix they add a lot of texture and character. So underneath this pad, you probably can't hear that too much. That's the piano. What? So I haven't looked at this project file in a long time. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyways, you can kind of hear it there, though, is what I'm trying to get at. You know, it's a weird sound that doesn't necessarily sound good, but with everything, it's, yeah. Dill, to answer your question a little bit more, too. So, compositionally, a lot of the time you'll see that I ramp up the pads and stuff up here, which is typically a higher pitched pad. But a lot of the time I'll also, bring it in here, bring it in there, and it's to make everything move, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's a way to make it organic, just make it as inconsistent as possible while still sounding good. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, let's see where this pad actually is. Okay, so this pad here is what you're hearing right now. And this pad is just this pad pitched up. So it sounds a little bit more intense. It sounds like we're going somewhere. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's the EQ that's on it. Dill, motion of the ocean. Yeah, exactly. No waves are similar. No waves are the same. Treat your drones and your pads like that. But I think something else to mention, there's always going to be something else to mention, is in this type of music, it's not so compositional, right? It's all very generative. It's very stagnant and just one thing. Whereas Dill, in your music, like you're looking for chord progressions and all this stuff, that's a lot more difficult to make your pads stand out and to not get muddied up. You know what I mean? So it's something else to keep in mind. Maybe for outros you can do stuff like this, but in an actual track, unless you're only using root notes, much more difficult. Something else I'd like to do though is go through like some of the tracks I did with Michael Lessard 2 years ago. We came out with a 2-track EP called No/Soon, and I really liked what we did on that as well. So one of these days I'll be going through that. I think I did it at one point, but I'd like to go through them again. Desolate Horizons. I really love how all your music sounds so organic. Yeah, exactly. And I really think it just has to do with the movement and noise. you know, makes it sound like it's coming out of your speakers in your room. You know what I mean? Could be wrong about that. That's just sort of what I tell myself. All right, let's go into the fun part. So, what you heard before, this acoustic guitar, right? So what I ended up doing was I just played the same notes in the key, not necessarily in this rhythm, on the piano, and then I edited it, like chopped them up and edited them to sort of, you know, match. Let's see where that is though. I think. Nope. Right, and it sort of comes back, and then they converge. I mean, go away, and then they converge here, and then they go out of each other again. It's a really cool technique. I'm glad that I found, because I think it sounds super cool. And then one last thing is this guitar that I made. So this is underneath. This isn't these two. This is this section here. So let me. These three should be pretty much the same. Like you can see here. Relatively, they hit on the same spot, but that's another thing. I try to make things as loose as possible. I think it sounds good. It sounds like it's a bunch of people playing in the same room that have never met each other before. That could just also be me saying that because I don't have any rhythm. But you know, it makes a nice texture, and this is something I was doing a lot as well. Is like play the same thing a little bit differently every time, and then stack them, pan them. And it's almost a cloud, right? It's almost like you put like a granular delay on it, but it's acoustic. And then underneath those are these ones, which are just in that key, generally speaking, in the same rhythm underneath. And you get this nice little, you know, it's very layered. It's wide, and it's, I don't know, it's exciting to me. I'm not sure if any of you have also played Outer Wilds, that game, but it also kind of reminds me of that, and that's what I was playing a lot at this time. It sounds like the soundtrack of it. Like, personally, I could listen to this for quite a while. I like this sound, you know. But I want to go through. This is all I did to the recording. I have no preamp. I have no external EQ or compressor that's behind it. This is all it is. I also didn't see that this was routed to there, but anyways. So all of this is also routed through this and that. I want to actually show you what this guitar rig is doing. This is what it would sound like without it. Very boring and quiet, you know. And then it just adds the noise. It brings out the highlights and stuff, you know. And then you put it all together, especially with the piano. And there. And then all of a sudden it's a full track. Spencer, what's the link between two tracks at the bottom there? Not familiar with this DAW. So FL Studio, I can't remember what it's called in other DAWs. On Pro Tools and stuff, there's a proper professional name for it. But essentially what's happening, this track 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 are getting routed to the same, it's getting bussed to the same track. And then this bus is getting bussed to that track. It makes it very convoluted in FL Studio, but you can essentially see with the noise. So this track is getting completely sent through there. A lot of the time with bus tracks, this is what would happen. It would be getting routed to both, and you can sort of adjust the reverb here. without affecting the original source. But I like to go 100% in a lot of these things. Yeah, exactly. Send and bus. I just call it routing. I'm not an audio engineer. So yeah, that's that track. I really like this track. I realized that I kind of forgot. Like I said, I'm just going to listen to this while I speak. Leonard, you asked, do you have any plans to branch out genre-wise, not as an artist, but as a producer / A&R? I don't know. A while ago, I really wanted to get into like folk music and stuff. Even drum and bass I wanted to get back into. And start working with artists that did more singer-songwriter stuff and all this. But, you know, I don't know. I'm sticking to my lane for now, you know. Pot Kettle. Oh, man. Glad to see another familiar face in here. Yeah, it's been like maybe a year, maybe more than a year since the last stream. So I'm glad you caught this one. Oh, man, I appreciate, you congratulating me on the wedding, too. Yeah, me and Chantel got married in May, which is very exciting. We actually released a song on that day, The Sound of Swimming Underwater. So that's exciting, and I appreciate you mentioning it in here. Lots of updates to life recently. Very thankful for everything, you know. All right. So these are the two. So, okay. Another thing to mention. The album is pretty much out at this point, to be honest. Like, out of the 11 tracks we've released, 8 of them? I'd have to check Spotify. Let's check Spotify. Let's go to Alaskan Tapes. I'm realizing now that you guys can't see my Spotify, but that's fine. Let's actually show you. All right, so you can see my Spotify here. Let's go over how we released this, because it's kind of interesting, and as an artist, it's conflicting, but as a person in the music business, it's almost needed at this point. I'll give my caveats in a minute, but okay, so essentially, all of these songs up until here are singles to this album. Yeah, Spencer, I think 9, which is crazy. I mean, listen. There's reasons for it, which is essentially algorithmic manipulation. But really, do you want to be doing 9 singles? Probably not. You know, there's a lot of data and a lot of, I guess a lot of data showing that if you do a lot of singles, about 3 to 4 weeks in between each other for months on end, something's going to get picked up. I mean, it makes sense. It'll get in front of editors' eyes. It'll get in front of the algorithm a lot, especially if a lot of people are listening. But that's literally the reason that we did it this way. In between it, we technically put out the EP before the 2 collab tracks, the one with Mashi Mas and the one with Andrew Tasselmeyer, which I want to go through both of these today as well. And then we sort of started doing the waterfall again. The reason for the waterfall is so that every time a track comes out, the listener's reminded that there's been 2 other tracks, 3 other tracks, 8 other tracks at the same time. It really works for artists to do it this way. It's just a matter of, perspective and if you want to do it that way. Dill, I have a feeling you're probably just going to drop a full album when it's ready. I have a feeling you're not into singles, but, I feel like it's like a core thing. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be seen as more of like a musician and artist, you'll just drop the record. But if you're maybe that's just me, but anyways, so the 2 songs that we just checked out, Intersect and Something Ephemeral, are the last 2 songs, and they're coming out tomorrow on the album here. You can see it all here as well. You can also see that I haven't liked my own songs. But I love the artworks for this album. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, all this artwork was analog. So I actually went out into the backyard, burned paper, took photos with photos beneath them, see if I can bring them up. You know, I took that photo on my film camera and burned this one and put it on top. Pretty cool. And yeah, I really love these. That one was taken in my neighborhood. This one was taken in Iceland. That's a house on a hill in Iceland. Let's go through these. Actually, this is fun. This is also in Iceland, and if you can see here, a little Easter egg, I photoshopped in a UFO for fun, I guess. But that's also in Iceland. When we went to Iceland back in 2019, I think, one of my goals was just taking as many photos of these little houses on the hill as possible because I knew I'd use them at some point. But it's awesome. This one is also in Iceland. To show off my Photoshop skills, these are photoshopped in. There were no actual canoes there. But other than that, everything else is analog. I did take these in my backyard. Yeah, Leonard, liability hazard. Exactly. Yeah, we were a little bit worried I was going to, burn down the house. But thankfully we didn't. I would have had, network, cover that if I did. But I'm just kidding. This one is also in Iceland. I didn't realize how many Iceland photos there were here. This one was actually really close to the Airbnb that we were staying at, which was super nice. In northwestern Iceland. This one is in Alberta. That's from Alberta on the trip where I proposed to my now wife, Chantal, which is pretty cool. I don't know if you can also tell some of these burns are the same. So like this burn mark here is this burn mark just flipped a little bit. At some point I had to do that because we were coming in with so many singles. But this one is also from Alberta. Once again, I just like taking photos of houses from far away. Not sure if this is even interesting, but I'm having fun. This one's from the Adirondacks in upstate New York, right near Mount Marcy. And the cool thing about this actually is these burn marks came by accident, and I really like them so much they're actually framed. This photo is framed right there without the burn hole, just like the proper one. I liked it a lot. I would like to do that more in the future, accidentally. And then this one is also in Alberta. Some swans on a lake near our Airbnb. All right, let's get off artwork. Oh, and then the actual album artwork. Sorry, is from the Adirondacks. Am I not going to be able to see it big? No, but it's a bunch of people that we took photos of from across the street doing some community gardening, which is pretty cool. The album cover here, the green is not actually green. I did color correct that, but only minimal digital editing. Yeah, that was that. See what I mean about the guitar in the background though? Like, I could listen to it for hours. I think I missed a bunch of stuff. Desolate Horizons. Yeah, I put 9 singles out from a 10-track album. It was crazy, that's for sure. Did you find that it was worth it? This is something I'm interested in asking other artists. I think it was both worth it and not worth it, because I tend to get stuck on album projects. Like I feel like I can't move on to the next one until the first one's out. I never used to be like that, but I am now. So it's kind of put me back a little bit. But in terms of how the album's done, it's worth it because I wouldn't have done this well if I didn't put out all the singles. So it's one of these trade-offs, I wonder what your opinion is of that. Podcast. What happened to the tracks you were writing on live streams? Did any of those make it to release in some form? They did, actually. So thankfully I still have Spotify open. I don't know if you remember, before Who Tends a Garden, I came out with these AB singles. These ones. All We Can't See, An Image, Seconds Holler, Oh Woods Wake, and Laps and Woodlands. So both of these were made on stream. Laps and Woodlands. I really love Woodlands. I think it's heavily underrated in terms of stream count. Holler was made on stream. Just flaunting a 10 million stream count. Not a big deal. I'm just gonna put it out there. Oh Woods and Wake were not made on stream, but I believe an image was also made on stream. Not all of them made it out, but yeah, those ones did, and I'm really happy that they're sort of documented that way. I think it's really, really cool. Let's go on to the next question. Yeah, I'd say like 4 Dr. Waterfall with Wavepool coming out on 24th. Yeah, Dylan, man, you gotta make sure that you waterfall those. That's the main thing about these singles. You have to do it, you know. Strawberry User, thanks for joining. You have school tomorrow. It's all good. This is gonna stay up afterwards. It'll be a VOD or whatever it's called. So you can come back and watch if you want. If you don't, the album's gonna be out tomorrow anyway, so you can listen then. But I appreciate you joining in. Have you been on Substack at all? That's where I first discovered your stuff through a newsletter called Flow State. Yeah. I also read Andrew Tasselmeyer's newsletter, and it was cool to see you collaborated. Yeah. I don't use Substack as a writer, but I really love Andrew's Substack. Taylor Dupree's Substack is really, really good. Flow State as well. Flow State's been really great because they recommend some really great artists, and it actually makes a difference too when they shout you out. It does a lot. You can really see it in the analytics the next day. It's really cool. I really appreciate Flow State. And yeah, me and Andrew did a podcast together on my podcast, and then he and I interviewed Taylor Dupree together, which is really a really exciting thing. His newsletter and podcast are really awesome. Sound Methods, I can't recommend it enough. If anybody's into ambient music, obviously if you're watching this you are a little bit, go subscribe to Sound Methods because it's really great. He and I have talked about me going on to Sound Methods and talking about some things, but it hasn't happened yet. I'm sure it will in the future. I was talking to him yesterday about it. Strawberry User, do you have any advice for someone who wants to start making music? Yeah, I do, and it's the most important advice you'll get. Just make it. Don't go in with a plan. It doesn't matter if you know what type of music you want to make. It doesn't matter about anything. Just mess around, have fun, find what you like doing, and just keep doing it. You know, what I find is people who don't succeed in music, in quotations, it's a little unfair to say stuff like that, but are the ones that stop making music. You know, if you never stop, something's bound to happen eventually. You'll reach your goals, you know. Obviously, don't make your goal to necessarily make a living off it at first. You want to see if you like it even first. But yeah, if you want to start making music, you know, things have never been cheaper. GarageBand is actually a decent enough DAW now that you can just download it. There's a free one called Reaper. You can start learning how to mix and produce and record on Reaper and use virtual instruments and stuff like that. If you don't know anything about music theory, that doesn't matter either. I didn't either, but like I'll show you in FL Studio. If you go to the piano roll, which is where you put the MIDI notes, you can actually put on certain scales, right? So if you want to do a C major 7th, you just look, now there's a C major 7th right there, or I guess that's a C major 7th. But you know, there's lots of things to use now. And I wasn't classically trained or anything. I learned just by making drum and bass music, and then eventually getting a piano and messing around. So just have fun with it and mess around. That's honestly my best advice. Later on, you know, YouTube will be your friend because 1,000 tutorials of really great people on YouTube. But yeah, at first, just I would actually recommend not watching other people and just for at least a couple weeks, just mess around, make some music that you think is cool. Throw some drums in there, throw some different tempos and all this stuff, and make bad music. You know, because you got to make bad music before you make good music. You know what I mean? If you want any links and stuff too, especially to Reaper, like the free one, just hit me up on Instagram or something. I'll send you the link, or you can just Google. Google's probably easier. But an image might be my favorite from you, not gonna lie. You know, a lot of people say this. It's not mine. I like All We Can't See a lot more than an image. But that's just me. I appreciate it anyways. You know? Desolate Horizon. So about the singles thing, I don't really think it was worth it, but I also was really hampered by the whole thing with AI labels releasing fake music under my name. Yes, that's a big issue. And I had a whole release strategy completely ruined. So this is fair. You know, it really sucks that I've seen it happen more and more where people are stealing other people's artist names to just get a little bit more of a reach, and it just doesn't pan out for anybody. It ruins the legitimacy of an artist profile and doesn't get the person stealing it anywhere either. It's almost like there's no point. It's just chaos, you know? It's like the person just wants to ruin something for not even any money or anything. It's very strange. But yeah, it sucks to hear that. Sorry that happened to you. I wish that there was something that Spotify and the other DSPs were doing about fraudulent streams other than taking down legitimate artist music. But that's a whole other thing, you know. Genya Pie, have you ever had tracks that seemed good at the idea stage but didn't make it to release? Does it ever happen after several attempts to finish a track, you just can't bring it to completion? Yeah, you know, all the time. I've gotten to a point where after working on a track for maybe 6-ish hours, I can usually tell if it's going to get finished or not. At that point, I can tell by the composition and stuff. And actually, honestly, it usually happens sooner than that too. But I've learned to let go of ideas because I know that they'll just come back later on. And you can always sample your own music as well. But yeah, I definitely have a threshold of like 6 hours. At that point, I assess and say, is this even worth finishing? And a lot of times it's no. But also a lot of times it's yeah. And usually by that point it's pretty close anyways. It's just a couple final tweaks. But yeah, getting into that sort of headspace. I heard this thing. I don't know if you're on YouTube, I'm sure you know of Hank Green and stuff. He came out with a video a few years ago talking about like his 80% rule, and it really stuck with me, which was like it sounds counterintuitive, but essentially it's don't put 100% of effort into anything. Just go 80%, because that extra 20% can be used to do another 80% efforted project. You know what I mean? Obviously, that's a little extreme, and sometimes you want to put 100% effort into stuff. But I think it's a good rule, and that's sort of where I got the 6-hour thing. Is like, you don't have to make something perfect. You know, the time used to make something perfect is often not worth it. You know, depending on your metrics. If you want to make the perfect song and that's what you like doing, do it. But for me, I really enjoy finishing songs and releasing music. So that's why I go about 80%. And then if I want to finish it, I maybe go the extra 5%, you know, and then it's done there. It might sound a little strange, but the general concept is sort of what stuck with me. You know what I mean? So... are you guys tired of this guitar loop yet? Because I'm not. Strawberry User, thank you so much for the advice. I'm 17 and I'm playing classical guitar for a few years, and it's really helpful and inspiring. Thank you. I'd actually like to have the link. I haven't played. Yeah, hit me up on Instagram. I'll get you the link to Reaper. If you're playing classical guitar, you're already light years ahead of where I am even now. If you have an idea of composing and stuff like this, that's really going to help. But just remember, I think it's a little discouraging for people when they're good at an instrument and then they start trying to make music and it sounds really bad. It's almost like you restarted. Don't get discouraged from that. Just try to have fun. And, you know, it helped me when I was first starting to really keep everything to myself. I didn't show friends all that much. I didn't show family. Even like for the first 4 or 5 years, I didn't really show anybody my music. Personally, I shared it online. And I think that took away some of the pressure. It might be helpful advice, might not be for everybody, but something to keep in mind. You know, especially if you are good at classical guitar, you're gonna suck at making music at first. But, you know, as you know, since you've been playing for 4 years, you'll get better at it, and it'll be worth it. Let's go into a different track. My voice is my throat's getting dry, and I don't have any water left, but that should be fine. Let's go to the track with Mashimas. So I don't know if you guys heard the 3-track EP that I came out with Mashimas last year, 2023, I think. It was one of my favorite releases, and so definitely had to do another track with Mashimas. He and I have an album getting conceptualized. You know, we'll see if it ever happens. I really want it to happen, and I'm sure it will. But yeah, we'll go through this. Desolate Horizons, got to go to bed. I'll catch up on the rest of the stream tomorrow. Congrats and have a great release day. I really appreciate it, man. And I really appreciate you watching the stream and yeah, hanging out. Hopefully I'll be doing this more and we can chat. Also, just, you know, I like your music. Let's chat about it some more, you know. My favorite song from the project. Perfect. Well, this is the pre-mastered version. As you can tell, there's more tracks in this because it's a collab. Mashimas added this section, so I'm actually interested. It'll be really fun to go through and see what Kansuke added. But we'll get to that. So I'm going to press play. I'm actually going to mute myself and take off my face, my camera, because I'm just going to go get water and then I'll be right back. But I'll have this playing at the same time. So although I didn't get to hear it all, that's a great song, right? I really, really love that song. I love working with Mashimas. It's all right. Let's go through some of this. I'm gonna listen to it a little bit more because I didn't actually. Let's go and listen to it blind. So this one had lots of layers. You can see, so this drone was made, the first drone here was made out of another Labs thing. So they have a tape orchestra sort of sample set. It's really, really, really good. You can kind of hear it there, actually. Oh, no, sorry, that's this. Let's see what that is. 1 second, sorry. Everything's unorganized. That's this, which is super nice when it's paired with reverb. I was using Small Winters once again. You can just hear the fullness of it, you know, super good. And it's got like this dirty kind of sound too. It's great. And that's fairly dry too. Like there's no reverb on there. So I had added this in. I think I sent it over to Kensuke. And you can hear this, which is here, I believe. Yeah. One of my favorite parts of this song too is like where everything sort of comes back, cuts out and comes back in. I think it's really cool. This was made out of something, probably the Blank Forms synth, which I really, really like. I don't know if anybody hasn't used this one. Really, really great. Actually, I'll show you why it's great right now. So that's number 1. Let's open it up. Oh. So that's that, right? Each sort of preset, you know, has a certain sound. Obviously that doesn't match the song, but I'll get to where I'm going in a second. This will actually blend sounds. So that's crazy, in my opinion. When you sample it and have it going through different things, and then you throw it into a granular synth, and then they can all sort of meld together, it makes some really great drones and synths. But yeah, where was I going with that? I mean, most of this was probably made with that, right? And then you can hear the piano here, which Kensuke recorded on his own. He's so good at doing those low notes with the highs to make it very like impactful. Really great stuff. This is his piano here, I believe. And once again, I'm doing the stereo separation trick here, where I actually make all of track 10 go more. Let's actually see all of track 10 more wide, and then it comes back afterwards to make it sort of a thinner end, so that the piano will come through a little bit better. Podcat, all the tape saturation on the piano, yeah. I don't know, he's got a certain sound, and I'm really into it. Let's actually listen to his whole section here. I believe that's that. This is what he added. Oh, it's so good. This song went through a lot of different sort of incarnations as well. Oh, I missed that one. So all these are his, I believe. Once again, he leaves space before he comes back. Oh, so nice. Wow. Love it. So you can actually see in this as well, I resampled another project of mine that I'd made that past November. So this one was all made on... it says started 2022. It was later updated. I guess I don't have that information now. Anyways. We had finally finished it maybe a year and a half later. Oh, it's so good. Even just hit those like creaking noises. I was so happy when he sent me these stems, and they were so easy to just place in. I think Did I do anything other than EQ? No, just EQ. And not even on all the tracks. Oh, but just listen to that low end on this. So, like... And then in the mix, you really start to notice, you know, how everything comes together. So good. Oh, this is cool. So a long time ago, you can hear it here. That's really cool. I was using some interesting stuff here. I haven't used the stranular in years. I got some warble on there, some EQ. Wow, 1 second. I just have to go through these stems before I explain them. So I had, on Marketplace, I found this person selling something called a Gacello. There's this composer that I really like. I guess he's an artist. William Ryan Fritsch. He's on the label Lost Tribe Music. And a long time ago, I saw him post on Facebook or Instagram or something, and he had a 6-string acoustic guitar, but the neck was curved, so you could bow it really easily. I actually found somebody in my area who had custom built one, and they were selling it, so I picked that up. So the sort of bowed sound behind the plucks is what that is. And it doesn't sound great, but once again, when it's layered with, I'll go back to when it's layered with pads, it just adds a grit and adds a dirtiness to it. And it's really, really nice. So what you can see here with the separation too, I think is really interesting. So you can see the stereo separation in these drones. Here though, you can hear how it's in both ears. But then I make it very thin here as Konsuke's instruments are coming in, you know? What is this one? That's interesting. That's very interesting. I guess I just have... Is that this? I was just trying to make noise behind the piano, I guess. I don't remember making this stem, but obviously it worked. And oh, that's very interesting. Where is this on here? It must have been made with the stranular. That's very cool. But yeah, in the mix, you know, you just want some noise. And especially when things get noisy and Konsuke's instruments start coming in, really works out. Oh, I love this song so much. I don't remember how we came up with the name of it. Actually don't oh, When the Earth Yelled Back at Me, it's right here. I think I just came up with it after reading some sort of book. But I thought it fit, you know. It doesn't really match the rest of the album's names, but hey, no, that's fine. Nice. Oh man, I love that song. I could listen to this one for a long time. Piano Day 2022. Hold up. In my sort of STEM navigator on FL here. I've got two things called Piano Day 2022 5 and 7. Let's see what these are. Oh, interesting. You know what? This is from the video I did from... So this is another thing that I like to do a lot, especially around this time a couple of years ago. I would just sort of twinkle on the piano, you know? And it was a good way to come up with like generative melodies, if you want to call it that. Although it's not generative, obviously. Oh, that's cool. Well, these actually have an insert. I don't know where these were used in this song, but hey. Let's see if when I unmute everything it still fits. It does, so it's somewhere in there. I wouldn't be surprised if I ran that through the organelle, the sampler on the organelle. And I almost like it. I almost wish I kept it in. That's super cool. Wow. Is there a track that everybody would like to see broken down? I've got a couple more that I want to go over, but I want to make sure that I get the tracks that other people are interested in as well. I'm surprised that there's not more to go through in this one, but it is what it is. Once again, even with my mixing here, like you can see, I hardly do anything. For people who are just starting and stuff, like, you don't need to do anything. I think that's a common misconception, to be like a maximalist in terms of mixing, and I guess even composition. You know, minimal is almost always better. Not always, but sometimes. All right, what track should we go? I'm thinking the track with Andrew Tasselmeyer. So this one was fun because I had started this track. I'm definitely going to go through simple math. Don't worry, Nelloon. Weight was interesting because I had started this track and it was going to be a track kind of like Drifter, if anybody remembers that one off of You're Always an Island. And it had the kick, the four to the floor, but it just never felt finished. So I sent it over to Andrew Tasselmeyer, and I believe he thought that it was a remix, which is funny because he labeled all these remix. And he went through and, you know, mangled everything on his iPad the way he does. And let's take a listen. This is a little bit of a longer one, so I'll probably speak a little bit through it, but a lot of reverb on that. chime in while this is all going here. He actually added a lot of those piano notes in, and it was really interesting when I'm excited to isolate the kick because it's very digital, and there's even that little delay on it, something I'd never thought about doing, but I just thought I'd mention that. Even that sound there too, like the feedback loop, man, it's so cool. So when we were making this, in the master, it might sound a little bit different than the mastered version, because in the master we took down the bass quite a bit and the kick. We sort of buried it a bit, but as you can see here, I only spent 2 hours and 50 minutes on it after he had sent the stems back. The track that I had sent him, I spent a lot more time on, but it's interesting because I'm actually not super familiar with this track as I am with other tracks on the album. Ones that I'd spent hours and hours and hours on. This one just kind of worked out. But yeah, I'm really interested to show you all the kick. Hear that? Like, that's just something I never would have done, and I'm very thankful that he did, because it sort of opened my eyes up to like different types of maybe noise as percussion, you know. It's super cool in my opinion, and just add, yeah, this rhythmic thing going. So this is the first drone, just a drone, very very simple. It looks like I added a little bit of reverb on here. The funny thing is, when he sent me these, I never actually asked if he was cool with me editing stuff. I just sort of did it, and I've actually never spoken to him about it. Whether or not he was super happy with the stuff he sent me, whether he wanted that to go out or if he was cool with me. I'm sure he's cool with me editing it, but it's kind of a funny thing. Yeah, this is this drone. I'm sure I sent him some sort of stem that sounded like this. I'm interested to see what these little spikes are. Oh, it's not even that. Wait a minute, I'm very confused now. Yeah, that was this one. Oh yeah, okay. It is that one. I thought that I had it wrong because the reverb has too long of a tail. That's that, you know, not too much down there. Looks like this one is also getting fed into that reverb, but that one's just a lower drone. I can turn it up a bit. Pretty nice, you know. But the stuff, where it gets interesting is stuff like this that he added in, like noisy drones, and especially the string stuff they did. So I edited this quite a lot. I took away a lot of the high end because I like my drones to sound very clean most of the time. I know I've been talking about sort of noise and stuff this whole time, but you know what I mean. So these Moog swells are really nice as well. It almost sounds like strings, right? It sounds like, and it might be from the samples that I sent him. But it sounds like, you know, in Bon Iver, in Forever Ago, when he hits the guitar strings with the, you know, some sort of metal thing, kind of sounds like that. Super nice. Let's see his piano that he added. These sort of menacing reverse and forward pianos. It's cool. Super affected. I'm not the biggest fan of affected pianos, but it sounds cool, yeah. I think that's another cool thing composition-wise, when you mix sort of menacing sounds or even minor sounds with majors, or yeah, with major sounds. It doesn't sound so menacing anymore. It sounds actually relaxing and nice. That's, I think, a key part of ambient music. Let's see what that is. Oh, that's interesting. And see how he left the digital artifacts in? That's almost another way to use noise as percussion. It's super cool. So nice. And then with the layer. So cool. Let's check out this glitching texture here. So this was definitely something that I sent him, and it was using Lulatone's sample library, where he uses Casios and stuff. For those who don't know, Lulatone has really great sample libraries for OP1, a Contact, and a couple other things on his Bandcamp, and I'm pretty sure they're cheap. You should definitely check them out. Yeah, that's super nice. Let's check out these strings and woodwinds. Like, that's quite intense. Almost sounds like an epic or something, you know, like a trailer. Would never have expected it to work in a track of mine, but it's sick. So big ups for Andrew adding that. Wow. Super nice. so glad that he and I finally got to do track. Hopefully there's more in the future too. Sure there will be. Let's go to simple math, and then I want to do light divides, which actually isn't in this for some reason. I'll have to find it. And then I also want to do delirium hums, and I think that's it for today. Let's go to simple math. And once again, you know, the titles are sort of what they seem, you know, mathy and sort of in a sense physicsy, but not really, obviously. I like to think of stuff as planes and like axis planes. And simple math is just another one. Look at this. This is crazy. Okay. Simple math, another one of my favorites on the album. It was made February 10th, 2023, which is crazy. And I don't know if there's going to be something missing here. Because there's this here. This empty pattern. But it's literally 5 sounds. And this contact instrument is just a sub. You know? Which honestly a lot of the time is how I make drones. Is you sort of go like that, put it into Mangle, and you got a drone. Especially when you add a little bit of noise and stuff, it's really nice. But okay, let's listen to the track, and I'll explain some of it in a minute. In 2 minutes 30 seconds. So yeah, literally, as Niloon said, truly simple. You know, and that's all it is. It's one drone with essentially this bell, which is a sub sine tone, through the organelle. and then reversed and pitched up and down, and that's it. And that's how the drone was made as well. I figured out I put this here so that I could print the delay, and we'd actually get that at the end of the track, which was something important. I think in the final master we brought back this, so it ended around here. But yeah, let's go over this. Daniel Grant, thanks for dropping into the stream. What does your music mean to you? How does it make you feel? This track makes me feel tired as hell. But I don't know. My music, it's. I know it's gonna sound weird because it's kind of the opposite. Let me take away this drone for a second, and just have the bells. I know a lot of artists like to get overly personal with their music, but it's not really that for me. Me making this music, obviously it's an extension of how I'm feeling, because I'm sort of curating the sound as I make it. But this is really just like I sat down one day, messed around with a couple sounds. I thought it sounded nice, and it fit the album. And that's really how I think about it. Obviously, maybe I just don't have the words to, really explain it. But yeah, in general, that's pretty much it. My music is just like a series of processes that I've come up with. Nothing like pouring my soul out for it. Unless it's piano. The piano music's a little bit different because I have to actually play it. But and I can mess around with timing and stuff to match the mood that I'm feeling. But in terms of this stuff, it's highly generative. So come up with the process and just sort of curate what you like to hear, which might sound a little too analytical, but it's the way that's really worked for me, especially over the last couple of years for making music. I really enjoy it that way. It's much easier to get rid of songs when you're not so personally attached to them. And it's a lot easier to finish them as well and put them out in the world, because it doesn't feel like everybody's judging you personally. It just feels like people are judging the process, and sometimes the process doesn't work, But yeah, over-winded answer, I'm sure. But yeah, let's look into. So this drone is just this mangled going into a reverb. I'm not sure which reverb, because I didn't save any. I didn't save any of them for the mixing phase, because I had to relieve some CPU. But yeah, let's look at this. That's what it originally sounded like, and then once you put it through the organelle, you get these. And the noise comes from the room tone, and since it's a small mic, it has to pick up a lot of this noise. I also want you to hear what it sounds like. So this is one of the layers. I want to hear what it sounds like without the reverb or delay. So you can hear it slow. And without reverb or delay. It's just a lot more flat. The reverb and delay really expands it. And then this is the higher pitch one with the reversed plus regular. And that's really all it is. Thanks, man. Thanks for your sharing. Really nice to hear your thoughts. I'm also a producer and I haven't released any of it because it all feels so personal. So quite refreshing to hear someone talk about the process without so much attachment. Yeah, honestly, it was something I noticed in a lot of composers, producers stuff, is that they're afraid to release their music, And honestly, I seriously put majority of my learning and just growth in terms of writing music and stuff is because I put it out to the public, and I met people and they sort of told me what I'm doing wrong in their opinion and what I'm doing right, and it sort of really let me exponentially grow in skill, I guess. But I would highly recommend just put it out and don't attach your name to it if you don't want to. I didn't for years and years and years. I never put my name on it. I just released it as aliases, and I'm all for it. You know, that's my number one piece of advice is just put out the music as well. Make it, have fun with it, and put it out. Because it also helps you get past it and into the next project, I feel like. At least for me, I know that a project is finished, obviously, when it's out, you know, instead of just it sitting on your hard drive and you're always thinking about what you want to do with it, you know. What made me decide to be an ambient producer? I just liked ambient music. And I found that I was better at it than I was like lo-fi music or drum and bass music or whatever. So I just stuck to it, and I just sort of doubled down. And it's really all the music I make now is only ambient or solo piano music. I don't really experiment too much or mess around. Obviously on guitar and stuff I'll play other stuff, but in terms of actually sitting down and writing music is strictly this type, which I find fun right now. Yeah. So that's that. Pretty nice. It's a nice song. I think that it's nice, like lullaby type of thing, you know, which makes sense since it's pretty close to the end of the album. Let's go on to Delirium Hums, and while this is playing, I'll try to find Light Divides. I don't understand why it's not in here, so I'll have to find it. But I really like that song. So this song's important to me and interesting because it's the first song that I really played cello on. For the past couple of years, I've been learning cello. Not good at it. It's very rudimentary. I just play notes and stuff. But yeah, with the production skills and stuff that I've developed over the years, I was able to put it all together and actually make melodic content, and it sound like a whole string section, so it's really cool. Do you have a favorite album you've put out? My favorite is For Us Alone because of all the ambient post-rock tracks. So some of my favorite tracks are on For Us Alone, but I wouldn't say For Us Alone is my favorite. I would say my favorite, honestly, is Who Tends a Garden at this point. I feel like it's the most fleshed out. Millions was also really good. But in terms of songs on For Us Alone, the tracks like Real People in Real Places, and then The Sky Sings Its Chorus, For Us Alone, Part 1 and Part 2. Honestly, it's funny because Part 2, the last track on the album, might be my favorite song I've ever written, and it's very simple. It was just like a tape loop, like guitars through tape loop kind of thing, you know, and reverbed out and noised out. And did it ever work out for me. I really love that one. But then the way that also a lot of those elements from Part 2 fit into Part 1, I'm really proud of those two tracks in particular. But actually, you know what? Views from 16 Stories might be my favorite. It was the first one where I tried to do that ambient post-rock thing with songs like The Times Are Tired, and there's another track. Wait a minute. Now I'm going to have to pull up the track list of Views. Just give me 2 seconds. I have to figure this out. Yeah, so For Us Alone had Real People. Yeah. So I got those right. That's good. Yeah, The Times Are Tired. Another Song to Stop the Spinning is one of my favorites. Views from 16 Stories. The track is one of my favorites. Even O Seeker with the trumpets and stuff. Oh man, I love this album. I think this one is the most fleshed out, 100%. This one and Millions, they were made around the same time. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, let's listen to Delirium Hums. And while I'm doing that, I'll mute myself and try to find Light Divides, the project file for it. Don't really understand why it's not in that folder, but we'll figure it out. All right. So now, before I do that, an interesting little thing about this song was actually made for a live show that I played at the start of last year. Let's see when I actually made it. Or maybe it's at the start of this year, because it says here March 23rd. March 10th, 2023. And I needed a sort of ender track, and this is what it ended up being. I extended it to about 10 minutes long. Views from 60 Stories was the first album I heard from you, and I became... Thank you so much. Yeah, that means a lot. I felt like I was really onto something with the ambient post-rock stuff, but I stepped back from that a little bit. I'm going to be getting back into it in the future. But let me mute myself so you guys can hear this. So yeah, that one's really cool. I was really proud of the sort of structure that I came up with there, where sort of the drone built to here, and then this sort of melody came out from it, and then we go back into the drum. You know what I'm saying? I think it's really cool. So let me just do one of the things while I'm speaking. In the live show, what I did was around the middle part, because I had extended it, I got the guitar out with distortion and bass and just did the Sigur Rós thing where he makes as much noise as possible. And it was really cool, and then it faded out into the strings, and it was a really cool ender for the thing. I'm assuming that there's video around somewhere. I'm sure Chantel took some. But that's why this song was even created, and at first I didn't know if this song fit the album. And I still don't know if it fits the album, but I'm happy it's on it regardless, so that it's on, a record and stuff like that. I really enjoy it though. I'm hoping to do more compositions like this. It kind of reminded me of like the Millions compositions, so hopefully I'll be doing more of this. Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, I really appreciate it. It's pretty cool. So I'm actually looking at these, and what I believe I did was resampled some of the strings from For Us Alone by Jonathan Dreyfus out in Germany. Let me start sort of muting some things. Oh, that's an interesting stem. Wow, that's a really interesting stem. Look at these chords. Oh, it's just simple chords. Okay, I see. Interesting. That's cool. In context, what is that? Super strange. These ones are here. So these are the strings here. I guess they're on the first one. So here's what I did. Okay. So on FL Studio, there's something called New Tone, where it's essentially supposed to be a vocoder or like a pitch corrector for vocals. But for a long time, I've been putting strings in them. I've been putting horns in. What it gives you is this really cool digital artifacts, sort of, and you can really make them into. Hear that? You can make it really in tune, out of tune. You can add like sort of tape warble. And that's pretty cool. Let me take the reverb off so that. Whoa, that's crazy. Oh my god, we're gonna have to go through that. So it doesn't sound great, right? But then on Guitar Rig, let's see if it loads up. Okay, it does. So I've got -3 plus minus an octave plus reverb, and it smooths it out. So all of these string stems are that, which is kind of crazy actually, and that's nuts. All right, let's stop that and let's hear it in context of the. Wow, yeah. Okay, let's mute a bunch of this. So here's one. It's a little intense. And I think where it really comes through is with these violas. I hadn't looked at this project file for a long time, so it's really cool to be able to actually hear these. And I always enjoy sort of isolating the strings, because the strings are a lot of the time my favorite parts of the track. I'm interested in what this is down here. Oh, cool. Just driving, like noise of driving. That's very cool. With just EQ'd. That's pretty sweet. What's this one? Oh, that's that. So this is the string playing that I did here. It's obviously highly reverbed out, but it's here. This is on the cello and the good cello. And really, that's all this song is. Like, obviously, it's more tracks than the last ones, but without the strings, let's hear it. Interesting. I don't know. It's just a very bright drone, you know? Very cool. What is this over here? I really like the way that the end of the song was too, with these textures. And the harmonics there too. That's crazy. What is this one? So that's just as noisy as you can make it. Let's see what I was trying to... Oh, wow. So this was definitely recorded on the organelle, because this is what I have to do for the organelle. You have to put the gain super high. That's funny. Wow. Actually sounds really nice without all the noise. I wonder why I didn't just do that. Instead, I buried it. In this noise, but if I didn't have this, look at how nice that is. What was I thinking? Wow, this is inspiring. I'm gonna have to make some music with some of the older stems. All right, so I did find light divides, and this will be the last one. And you'll be able to see how bad I am at organizing my files. So it's in May. Let's see if it comes up, though. I don't know why it's not in the mixing folder. But yeah, I'm excited for the album to come out tomorrow. It's been, like I was saying earlier, it's been a long time coming. The album was mastered in like March or something like this, March or April. And so I've just been sitting on it, all these songs, and just listening to them myself and having Chantel listen to them pretty much. So it's exciting to be out into the world. So I hope, yeah, wherever you guys are, you know, when it comes out tomorrow, at least give the 2 new tracks a little spin. Intersect and Something Ephemeral. So here is... Perfect. Here is Light Divides. This one's fun too, because I was using Taylor Dupree's Small Winters plugin all over it. Like I was saying before, I really like the band EQ. Like it's something about it. It's just an EQ, but it's really nice. And so as you can see, you kind of record a small sample into it, and then the playhead, which is moving slightly here, that's the part of the sample that it plays. So you'll get very glitchy, cool stuff. But let's take a listen to it. I'll mute myself, and yeah, and then I'll go through it, and then we'll call it a night. That's another crazy one. You know, listening to these songs, because I haven't actually heard them in a while. Like I said, they've been done for a long time. It makes me rethink the track list. You know, like this song I feel like should have been last. Like I feel like Intersect and this one are sort of, they go together well, and it would have tied the album really well together. Especially this last, the guitar. I remember really liking this guitar. Like it's so cool. And this is where Small Winters came in, because I had the sample in there, and that's also what's glitching it out right there. It's so cool. I want to see. That's what it sounded like without the thing. Obviously, it's just. Oh, that's crazy. This is what EQ can do too, just for people who are interested. Like, let's go to a louder part. I'm getting distracted, but just by my own mix. See how it sounds flat? It also sounds nice still. But that just warms it up, just putting these, you know, two things. Pot kettle. I bought a hand pan about a month ago, and you made me realize I want to put a granulizer on it. Granulize everything. This is my rule. You know, this is a interesting one because it's also so thin, right? There's no bass really. Actually, let's look at the EQ. Like, we don't really go below 100 hertz, you know? And I think that's another area that people mess up on, is like, you don't have to be in the whole spectrum of sound, you know? You can really just hone in on the, in my opinion, important parts with treble and mid-range. Oh, that's an interesting one too. Let me, because the waveforms are so small here, I can't actually see. You know what? Why don't, let's do this and then let's go track by track. All right. So this is an interesting one because it almost acts as a pad itself, but it's so textured. Like, what's on this? I'm not sure that we'll be able to. Oh, we will. Okay. Oh, wow. So this is my favorite preset in Guitar Rig. I often mess around with it, but Almost Clean, it's really good. It's really great for guitar, mostly, but yeah, even putting it on something like this. So this is a my xylophone bowed while walking around with the organelle in my hand. That's what all this noise is, and that's what that tone is, which I think is very interesting. I think it's very cool, especially in the context of texture and just making things glued together, you know. Let's listen to the next one. What is this one? So this is kind of the same thing, actually, which is weird. I must have just, so on the organelle, in the sampler, you can actually play different notes to get different pitches. So this must just be a different set of notes. I want to hear what it sounds like with it. You know, okay, I'm wrong. This is just the same sample, just moved over. Not even panned. That's interesting. So while everybody's here, I just want to, if I would have panned these, it would have sounded better. I don't understand what I was thinking, but anyways, I'm still happy with it. Let's see what this is. Okay, this is a drone. Let's see what's on the Guitar Rig. Just reverb and echo. That makes sense. So this is most likely guitar and maybe Labs. Oh, nice. We'll be able to hear it. Okay, let's look at what this sample is. So this is how Mangle works. Each one of these dots is another piece of audio playing from the same sample. Sometimes pitch down. When it's green, it's the regular pitch. When it's yellow, it's pitch down. For anybody who's never used Mangle, the way that I get this to work is I mess around with, oh, let's hope it doesn't crash. My CPU is going crazy right now. Alright, let's not mess around with that, but let's turn it off. So, what I do without making it crash is I put the attack really high and the release rate really high, so each grain, which is the audio, lasts a long time, lasts about 6 seconds. Typically in a granulizer or granular synth, it's milliseconds, so you get a very textured sound and glitchy sound, but I like to use it this way where it sort of makes drones. Cool, so we know how that's made. Let's look at this one. It looks like it's also the same thing. I don't know what I was thinking here. I just duplicated things and offset them. That's very interesting, and I didn't even pan. I guess if it works, it works. Cool. Let's look at this one. Oh, that's an out-of-tune guitar. Wow, did you just hear that? Another instance of Guitar Rig on his own channel. That's funny. So I can't tell if this is actually me playing or if this is on the organelle as well. Kind of sounds like it's me playing, just very loosely. Wow, cool. So this is the sample. You can actually hear it. This is it through the organelle. Wow, that's cool. So hear the strum. When it's pitched down through the organelle, it sounds like, which is pretty interesting to me. So this is also going through small winters, which gives it its glitchy sort of thing. And also the texture of the EQ as well, because of the band EQ on small winters. And sort of this is the backbone of the track, in my opinion. And as it comes up and fades in, I let the whole sample ride out, but then I stick to a specific melody and repeat it as we get to the end, which you can kind of see here with all the cuts. Just so that it doesn't sound too repetitive the whole track, you know. Let's add everything in slowly. It's pretty strange when that happens like that, when you add it in like that, because you're so hyper focused on the melodic structure of it. It sounds like it's wrong now. So yeah, this whole track is just made out of my acoustic guitar and a xylophone, it seems like, and maybe a little bit of labs, but let's actually see. I have a feeling what I did with labs. Oh my, that's too loud. Sorry, let me turn that down. I'll just show you one quick thing before I end the stream. So there's a typical, right, VST for piano. Something that's really interesting with VSTs and samplers, kind of like Contact or Labs or whatever you use, is that there's samples, right? So every sampler or VST like this comes with a tuner. And so if you bring it down all the way and then just go way up on your keyboard, you get really interesting sounds. You know, that's that just tuned all the way 3 octaves lower, right? And because it's a sample, not every sample has the same attack, which is why when I click the G flat or G sharp now, it takes a while for the note to come in. So you can play an arpeggio fairly accurately, which that wasn't super accurate, but you get the gist. And then it sort of randomizes itself. So if we look at where this might be a bad idea, but that's... So I just routed the piano to this track, which has some reverb and stuff. And it's just like a proper vibe now. And if you do it a little bit higher, sometimes you get a quicker attack. We're getting a lot of noise in there, but yeah, that's what I do a lot. And you can hear it in this. That's all I'm trying to get at. Is some of the really low sort of pangs. It's just that. And when you do it on the xylophone, you get it. When you bow the xylophone, you get a lot of it because you get a inconsistent tone. And it becomes very cool when you throw reverb on it or when you granulate it or whatever. Which is why I always mention that, you know, especially in this type of music, process is everything, because the process can make certain sounds not cheesy. You know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to use a VST based piano, but if you mangle it and you detune it and do all this fun stuff, it actually ends up sounding really nice. So yeah, for anybody listening who's just starting or whatever, just mess around, find your little processes that are fun to do, and it'll all be good. But yeah, I think that's it. Oh man, Sean's in here finally. Oh man, Lullatone, how's it going, man? Pitching down contact samples is one of my favorite tricks too. It makes everything feel more magical. Exactly. Yeah, I do that on your contact plugins, you know. Let's see if yours aren't so much on this one. They were a lot on Who Tends the Garden, and that process was a lot in here. For anybody who doesn't know, Lullatone makes great music. I'm sure if you know my music, you know his music. But he also makes really great sample libraries on Bandcamp. You can just go buy them, and they're very cheap and easy to use, and I use them all the time. You don't have to be buying Spitfire Audio and whatever other ones. Just go support, you know, Blank Forms and Lullatone and whoever else. But yeah, I think that's the last track we're gonna do today. We might do another one in a couple of weeks. Maybe make music or go through more tracks or whatever everybody wants to do. High fives from early morning in Japan. Yeah, I guess it's pretty early there, eh? But I appreciate everybody watching. It will be up as you know, a video for you to come back to or whatever if you ever want to. And yeah, I hope you guys like the album when it comes out tomorrow, and I hope you guys check it out. And yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.